If you think the dentist is scary today because of the bright lights, the awkward silence, and the way they ask questions while their hands are in your mouth, well, good news, because it used to be so much worse. Today, we're diving into the most unhinged jobs in medieval dentistry. The Middle Ages, roughly spanning from the 5th to the 15th century, was an extremely unfortunate time to own teeth. If you developed a toothache back then, there were no fillings, no antibiotics, and absolutely no, let's monitor it for now. The solution was simple and immediate. The tooth was forcibly and brutally removed. No delay, no debate, no questions asked, and most of the time, this was done in public right in the middle of the marketplace, with the farmer's wife pausing her shopping to watch, and the jealous neighbor leaned in for a better look so she could have something to gossip about later. And the girl you had a crush on? She stood there, watching you scream your lungs out while someone with pliers ripped a tooth from your skull. Pain was not just a side effect. It was the main event. Now, here's the confusing part. Dentistry actually existed long before medieval times. The first known dentist appeared in Egypt around 2600 BC. So the obvious question is, where did all the dentists go? Well, during the early medieval period, monks were the dentists. They were typically the most educated people at the time, so naturally, they handled medicine, surgery, and apparently, your molars. From around 500 to 1000 AD, if you had tooth pain, you went to a monastery and hoped for mercy. However, that arrangement was short-lived. In the 1100s, the church, through the Pope, decided that monks should probably stop cutting people open. So an official edict was issued banning monks from performing surgery, and that is when things got worse. Because the responsibility was handed to skilled tradesmen called barbers, yes, the haircut people, the logic behind this decision was simple and horrifying. Barbers already worked with sharp tools. They handled knives and razors. So clearly, that made them qualified to pull teeth, lance abscesses, and drain blood. But before we get to the barbers themselves, let's talk about the warning sign they left behind. Modern dentists and surgeons actually trace their roots back to the barber trade. Even when the first hospitals were built, they were staffed with physicians, while surgeons, well, they mostly operated as a business. And how did you know where to find one? A red and white striped pole. Yes, that same barber pole you see today. It wasn't just decoration. Nope. It came from bloodletting. The red represented blood. The white represented bandages wrapped around a pole to dry. So basically, every barber shop was silently screaming, "Come on in. We'll slice, dice, and maybe pull a tooth while you wait." So next time you walk past a barber shop, just remember, that place used to double as a surgery. By the 1200s, barbers even formed guilds. Over time, barbers specialized in two areas. Those who got educated could perform more challenging and sophisticated procedures, versus those who did the more routine services: a cut, a shave, and a tooth pull. Eventually, the authorities decided barbers should stick to bleeding, leeches, cupping, and tooth extraction, because apparently that's easier to regulate. Now, let's talk tools. This is where things get a bit weird. In the 1300s, the most common dental instruments were forceps and something called the Pelican. Let's start with forceps. Sound familiar? That's because modern dentists still use them. Well, modernized versions. Back then, they were basically pliers for your teeth. You clamp down, you pull. No anesthesia, no warning, just pure, unfiltered pain. The Pelican. It was invented in the 14th century by a French surgeon named Guy de Chauliac. The pelican looks like a bird. Kind of. Imagine a metal claw, hammered by a blacksmith, with a beak designed to grip your tooth and pry it right out of your skull. You twist it, you pull it, and yes, it mostly caused excruciating agony. It was designed to remove a single tooth, but sometimes it got a little ambitious. Collateral damage was common. A nearby tooth, or even a piece of jawbone, might decide to come along for the ride, leaving the poor patient with not just a toothache but also a broken jaw, a permanent deformity, and plenty of new reasons to scream. This device remained in use until the 18th century, which means people looked at it for hundreds of years and collectively decided, yeah, this is fine. It was eventually replaced by the dental key, which was not an improvement, just a different way to experience the same amount of pain. Modern forceps did not appear until the 20th century, which means humanity suffered for a very long time before finally fixing this. Unfortunately, there was also a whole army of quacks running around during this period. Unlicensed, untrained, just loudly confident, the kind of people who tell you, "Trust me," while holding pliers. And that is assuming you were even treated by a barber surgeon, because most people could not afford one. If you were wealthy, you hired an operator for the teeth. If you were not, the local blacksmith or a traveling tooth drawer handled it. These procedures often took place in the local marketplace. As entertainment, people gathered to watch as the suffering individual underwent treatment, truly a magical time. Meanwhile, today, your dentist dims the lights, plays calming music for you to feel relaxed, and asks about your weekend. Back then, your weekend was the event, and the entire village showed up for it. Depictions of medieval times in TV and film often make it look like everyone was dirty, miserable, and living in a permanent stink. But despite all that, medieval people actually had surprisingly healthy teeth. Analysis of skeletons from the era shows far fewer cavities than you might expect. They cleaned their teeth using rough linen cloths and herbal pastes made from sage, rosemary, mint, salt, cinnamon, and pepper. They even used vinegar-based mouthwash. So, if dental hygiene was actually pretty decent back then, what went wrong later? The answer is painfully simple: sugar. How many times has your dentist scolded you for eating too many sweets? Well, funny enough, our ancestors had the exact same problem. Sugar was rare before the late 1400s, but during the Tudor era, it became a staple for the wealthy. Queen Elizabeth I, obsessed with all things luxury, fully embraced this trend. Her high-sugar diet was only part of it. She also swore by something called Tudor toothpaste. This was a toothpaste made for royalty, and she insisted on using it whenever she occasionally polished her teeth. By the time she reached her 50s, Queen Elizabeth I had black, decayed teeth and several missing ones. And yet, somehow, she remained the it girl of her time. Fashionable, graceful, and admired by everyone from the upper-class elite to the commoner in the streets. So naturally, when the Queen's teeth turned black, the rest of high society decided, black teeth equals beauty. Black teeth equals wealth. The blacker your teeth were, the richer you were. Apparently, nothing says, "I've arrived," like showing off your rotten teeth collection at dinner parties. Those who were not wealthy enough to rot their teeth with sugar would find ways to color their teeth black using soot, for example, to keep up with the fad. Queen Elizabeth I suffered from constant toothaches. She feared having a tooth extracted so much that she made one of her bishops go first to prove it was survivable. Guess being queen comes with perks, like watching someone else suffer for you. Way to delegate your fear, Your Majesty. It was survivable. Well, for him. As if things couldn't get any worse, people decided to experiment wildly with dental treatments. In the 18th and 19th centuries, toothbrushes were often made with animal hair or bristles attached to handles made of bone or wood. But wait, if you were lucky enough to afford it, you could get a toothbrush with brass wire bristles. A luxury. A luxury that shredded your gums and scraped your enamel to bits. Because why stop at mild discomfort when you can have maximum pain and prestige? There was also something called mouse paste. During the Elizabethan era, people commonly used a mixture called mouse paste to relieve toothaches. This paste was made by mixing crushed mice with various herbs and spices, and then applying it to the affected tooth. And somehow, in the minds of the wise, this was considered reasonable, because nothing says science like grinding up rodents and hoping for the best. Bloodletting was also used to treat toothaches. This practice was popular in Europe from the Middle Ages through the 19th century, involved drawing blood from the patient to cure various ailments, including dental pain. It was completely ineffective for tooth problems and came with serious health risks, but confidence was high. Before modern dentistry, people also replaced missing teeth with dentures made from ivory. These dentures were expensive, uncomfortable, and prone to decay, which caused even more dental problems. Which is impressive, considering the material was already dead. So yes, modern dentistry is uncomfortable. But it is also clean and regulated and does not involve public screaming or rodents. So, next time you go to the dentist, terrified at the prospect of having a filling or a tooth removed, just remember, 600 years ago, the dentist was a barber. The tool used was a Pelican, and the crowd was cheering while you got your tooth pulled out. If this made you grateful for modern medicine, subscribe, like, and share. If it didn't, that's fine. We'll fix that in the next video.